Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being here, and I appreciate your time. I'm going to be very quickly reacting to the content creator, Riva TV, as she did a reaction video where she was reacting to the premiere of Tia Mowry's new reality television show. There's a way that obviously we grew up knowing about her and her twin sister, Tamara, and obviously she is a very grown woman, but I do think she understands that the public eye views her as, one of the twins from Sister and Sister. She spent some time starring in the show The Game, and then pretty much after that, I don't know if she's been in the public eye as much. Recently, we know she is divorced from her husband, Corey Hardwick, and most of her posts are about her going on podcasts. Basically, just spends a lot of time trying to convince people that she didn't make a huge mistake and she's happy now that she is divorced from her husband. And some of her posts I genuinely find a bit cringe, and some of them it seems like she is calling out for help and validation. So when I came across Riva TV's video, I wanted to kind of speak on it because Riva mentions in the clip I'm going to play that a lot of the discussions on social media surrounding Tamara are from single and married women who are giving credence to some of the things that she's saying. The single women are saying that's why they don't want to get into a relationship. That's why they don't want to get married. And the married women are saying, yes, you can lose yourself in marriage. Yes, it can be draining. You can forget who you are and all this stuff. So I'm going to play Raya TV's clip, and then I'll come back with the rest of my commentary.
Mom? That girl has my face!
And then it talked about her new normal as she navigates life, being, divorced, no longer in her marriage with her ex-husband, actor Corey Hardwick, and how, she was going through difficulties, even though we know that she was the one who made that decision.
I feel like one of the hardest things that I've had to adapt to is dropping my kids off at their dad's house.
I've always wanted the family dynamic of having a mom and a dad in one household.
Now, in the first episode of this TV show, and I have to be honest, I did not watch the full first episode of the TV show. I saw snippets that people released on TikTok as well as some clips that I saw on YouTube. And, she ended up actually finally talking about the reason in which she decided to get divorced from her ex-husband, Corey Hardwick.
You shouldn't have to act in your life.
Yeah, that part. And that's what it was. I got tired of not being authentic, and living in my truth.
Now, I thought it was interesting that she said that she got tired of people thinking that her relationship was perfect when it wasn't.
I got tired of showing up at events and people thinking that everything was perfect when it wasn't.
A lot of people saw the Black Love interview that Corey Hardwick and Tia Mowry did, in which they talked about the trials and tribulations that people go through in marriages. Her herself, she was the one who was saying that things have been, gotten to a place at one point that things had gotten really difficult. And it was in those times of difficulty that she realized that, she was so glad that the two of them were able to actually work things out.
There are times when I'm like, wow, last year was pretty tough. But this year, it's good that we stuck, to it.
So in speaking of the facade of people thinking that things are picture perfect, in my personal opinion, I don't know if people thought that everything was picture perfect, because people with knowledge, people of maturity, people who have been in long-term relationships understand that things are not always going to be, butterflies and rainbows all the time. Like, you're going to go through ebbs and flows, not only in life, but also in relationship. Go into a little bit more detail and get a little bit more in depth of the things that she was enduring or going through within her relationship that led to the demise and led to her filing for divorce.
I would go home and feel alone. Maybe I was trying to live a fantasy. I got tired of not being authentic.
I think that this is something that's definitely worth talking about, because there are a lot of women who are in marriages, and I hear it talked about all the time. Again, whether it's on TikTok or, all these dating gurus are telling women how to quote unquote protect themselves and how to, maneuver within relationships with men while guarding their heart and while kind of, obtaining all of these selfish ways so that they can be quote unquote better off because the nice girl finished last. Like, I always hear certain parts of certain of this conversation. I think that this is genuinely a false narrative that is constantly being pushed by women, but not only women, by married women.
Everything's not perfect, you know, marriage is work.
And I think that, you know, a lot of women have this idea that for you to be healthy in a relationship, or for you to be the ideal wife, you are supposed to prioritize everybody above yourself in ways that you neglect yourself and you lose yourself.
So the only really things that I wanted to add to this conversation, because I think Riva did an excellent job really laying out some of the key issues that I think people noticed about Tia and Corey's marriage from possibly the very beginning. I was one of the people who watched their Black Love interview, and I saw all types of red flags, not necessarily thinking that they would end up divorced, but I did see some issues, at least in their relationship or their dynamic, that I wouldn't necessarily think would land them on a show that primarily focuses on successful Black love. So I was able to pick up on some issues with them right away. But first thing I wanted to mention is, yes, I understand that marriage no longer holds the same value to women or men that it once did. And that causes a shift in thinking where individuals no longer look at their marriage as their lifeline, and specifically women. They are more likely to just walk away from the marriage instead of trying to find ways to sustain their relationship with their partner and work, quote unquote, work things out. I am in women's spaces all the time where I see women making posts looking for advice and ways to get through a particular issue that they're going through in their marriage or in their relationship. And I see a lot of women, promoting breaking up, just walking away, dropping a man, getting a new man, and moving on fast. And I just see how, for a lot of women, their romantic relationships are no longer the priority. And while I think some of that is positive, I think the negative aspect of that is women who really truly do want relationships, those women who still hold relationships with a lifelong partner as a main goal of theirs, they're not getting the support and they're not able to get advice from their peers about how to do it. Women my age may not feel comfortable going to a woman who was older, who was raised in an older generation, because they may feel that her advice is outdated, or, you had to stay. You had to get over it because he was controlling the purse strings and you ain't have nowhere else to have any options, So they may look at someone who is older and think, well, what am I really going to learn from them? Because the circumstances were different. The world was different. That leaves my generation and my age group. And if you have access to married women, what type of married women are they? Do they look at their marriage in a way that's inspiring, or that they could give you advice because they're in good standing with their husband? Or are they one of these married women who talk about manipulating their husband and controlling their husband through different covert manipulative actions, how to get him to do what you want and how to control, essentially women who are controlling their husbands like they would control a child? And are those women who are cheating? Like, there's so many different types of married women that it can leave someone with a shortage of people to run to when they need help. And that's why I think one of the things that Riva mentioned that I think was absolutely spot on is your village. Do you have a support system of women and men that can pour into you and your partner in one of those really rough times where you're just not hearing each other? He's not understanding you. She's not understanding you. There's no communication. Communication has completely stopped. No one is listening with their ears or their heart, and y'all are at a dead end. Do you have a village of people who have a common interest in your relationship and want you guys to stay together? And therefore, they make efforts to be supportive of your relationship? Or do you have women who tell you, yeah, girl, leave him, be single like me. We don't need these men. Or as a man, do you have male friends that encourage you to cheat on your wife and hit on women in public because they want you to be out there single just like they are? They want you to be dipping in something random just as much as they want to be. A lot of times people don't have the support that they need to maintain their marriages. And you'd be surprised how often that affects the outcome and the longevity of the relationship. Lastly, Riva mentioned that married women are online sharing how terrible it is to be married, how they lose access to their identities and who they are. They end up spending way more time than they intended taking care of their husband and kids, and they go neglected. And this is a reality. Yes, it is true. This can happen. But it's not something that you have to live in. It's not a space that you have to live in. Once you get to a point where you realize that, okay, maybe I've neglected myself, my hair, my nails, my skin, my emotional needs, my physical health, what can I do to communicate with my husband that I need time? How can I set up or restructure some things to where I need to pour into myself a little bit more so I can catch up with you guys? Because essentially, when you are a good wife and mother, your function will facilitate your household. And your household will be on a schedule. It'll be running in a certain manner. And that is a sign that you're doing what you're supposed to do. People are living and moving throughout their day, each day, and it's going smoothly. That's kind of how you can tell. And what it requires to be a facilitator of a household is that you constantly have to anticipate and look to fill in and jump in and act as an ambassador almost for those day-to-day things that your children or your husband needs, and things that they usually don't even think about, needs they don't even realize they have. You are there already facilitating it. So for example, say that when they go to wash their hands in the bathroom, they always pump the soap comes out, they wash their hands. It's not even a thought. Not realizing that that's a job. That's a part of being a facilitator of your household, is making sure that there's soap in all of the soap dispensers. That is technically, and what I read online is called an invisible job. So when I have those moments personally where I feel neglected or I feel like I'm not connecting with myself, I cannot function as a wife. I cannot function as a mother. I cannot do what I do so well for my family when I'm neglecting myself and I'm not making sure that I'm mentally okay, I'm physically okay. And so you as a wife and mother have to carve out space for yourself. You have to communicate with your partner that this is important, especially if he depends on you to fulfill that role. That is the dynamic of your marriage. He should then be mature enough to understand that he cannot go on neglecting his main partner. And if you're married to a good man that is understanding and does value your position, he's going to do that. Because he's going to already do the math in his head and realize, okay, so if she don't feel good, she's not going to get this, and this done. And I'm not going to have that. And my kids are not going to have this. And we all just going to be staying around. That's why the woman her well-being is so important. It's not that it's the most important. It's not that it's just happy wife, happy life. It's that if your relationship or if your marriage has a dynamic where the wife, the mother, is truly the center, the matriarch, the foundation of your family, she can only do so much if she's running at half-cast. And I think the issue with Tia specifically, I don't think she wanted to be married to Corey. I think ultimately that's what it comes down to. All of her circular talk, all of her, sparkly language, all of her pseudo therapist talk that she gives, ultimately it just comes down to she married him because he was her first in just about everything, and she just went with it. She went with the first man that she met, and I think over the years, she looked at the grass being greener. And whether or not that's the truth for her is up to her. We'll never really know that. But I think for her, the grass did become greener. And she wanted something different from what she had so long. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. I just think the issue is, a lot of times when I hear Tia talk about her marriage and why her divorce happened, it seems as though she's putting the accountability on marriage being the problem, the structure of marriage, versus it being, I was an inexperienced, sheltered child star who married someone that I had access to, that made me feel safe, that was nice, and I didn't think much past it. And that's the issue I typically have with the discussion of marriage, is people make marriage, the actual institution of marriage, the problem, the structure of marriage, the function of marriage. And they say things like marriage is dead, there's no more point of marriage, and marriage is this and marriage is that, I'll never get married, blah, blah, blah. And instead of realizing that the function of marriage, what it actually is when it's done correctly, just like most systems, when they're done correctly, they work, they function. They provide stability for both the man and the woman and any children involved. But you have people who want to partake in this system without investing or fulfilling roles that requires the function of marriage to work. You have men who don't really want to be fathers and husbands. You have women who don't really want to be wives and mothers trying to partake in marriage. And whether you believe marriage is more of a biblical or a more secular, law-based system, or something that was created by the courts, regardless, they're both marriage is still an example of a great commitment, and you have to rise to the occasion to fulfill your commitments, or you won't, and you can make a mess out of your life and someone else's and your children's. People understand when you're working on your career and you're trying to build your name in a company, you're trying to move up in a company, there's going to be ups and downs. You're going to have high points and low points, but you have to keep working at it. You keep finding different ways to attack it. You keep finding new ways to create something good and to ultimately get what it is that you want, which is whatever position that you want. But people look at marriage as, oh, if it's hard, quit. That's not, you cannot apply that mentality to marriage and expect good results. But yeah, I could talk about this forever. I really could, but that's all that I want to express in this video. Yeah, thank you so much for watching.